Amid rising geopolitical tensions, the UK and the Philippines have moved to elevate their defense and economic ties, and that's been reinforced by some high-profile visits to Manila from British Foreign Minister James Cleverly last August to the UK Prime Minister's trade envoy Richard Graham just this past February. But what concrete initiatives can we expect from the UK? Well, tonight we're honored to have UK Ambassador to the Philippines, Her Excellency Laure Beaufils. Ambassador, thanks for coming all this way to be with us in person.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Let's start from a big picture perspective. How would you describe UK-Philippines bilateral ties at the moment? It feels like there has been quite it's in overdrive at the moment, it feels.
It's certainly growing, expanding fast. I've been here for nearly 3 years now, and the embassy has grown significantly in that period of time, and the number of issues that we cover has also increased. So there are far more files that we're working on together, far more things where we're trying to deliver for the benefit of the Filipino people and the British people. And by your question, you reminded me of the meeting that the Foreign Secretary had with President Marcos, when President Marcos described the bilateral relationship as plain sailing. And at the time I thought, gosh, does he mean plain vanilla? But I think not. I think what he meant by that is that
it's smooth?
It's smooth. We're really like-minded. We see eye to eye on most everything, which means that my job here as an ambassador is great, because I get to innovate and to think creatively about great things that the two countries can do together. And so it's really about always developing new concepts, new projects to deliver for both countries.
A memorandum of understanding for 5 years has been signed between the UK and the Philippines, referring to maritime domain, enhancing partnership when it comes to that, identifying that as a priority, and also other defense engagements.
Yeah.
What exactly does that, what is the scope of that?
Yeah, I think the first thing to say is that as the UK, we're also a maritime country. So we've got a lot of understanding of what are the challenges that maritime countries face. And we've got a big navy and lots of interest in collaboration on maritime law and maritime domain awareness, or IUUF, which is illegal, unregulated, unreported fishing. And so there's a lot that we can do together. But the MOU that you were referring to is specifically a defense MOU, and it really opens the door for more training, more ship visits. We've seen a lot more ship visits in the last year and a half than we've done in the last 10 years, quite frankly. And that means more exercises together. And then projects that are also around supporting capability enhancements, so supporting Horizon 3 in particular, and supporting the Philippines as it increases its deterrence capabilities.
Does that cover an exchange of tangible assets? For instance, are we purchasing more warships, frigates, other Navy assets? Does that cover it?
Exactly. So it's not necessarily frigates or warships, but there will be different, possibly jets or different tools that are going to be in the pipeline that we hope the Philippines will purchase from the UK.
Very, very curious to know about what you'd like to do when it comes to strengthening maritime law enforcement. Because as we know, when it comes to the 2016 arbitral award, one of the sectors that's been, one of the issues with it rather, is the ability to enforce what has been awarded to the Philippines. I mean, how does Britain see maritime law enforcement?
I think the first thing to say here is that we view the Philippines' approach in the last year and a half as very successful. So what has been called strategic transparency, which to all intents and purposes is about shining a light on what's happening in the West Philippine Sea. And they say sunshine is the best disinfectant, don't they? So shining a light and then internationalizing the issue. So making more and more countries, such as the UK, but others as well, aware of what's happening, in part also through having so many international journalists on Filipino Coast Guard ships. And so it's made the news across lots of our media houses, raised not just the attention of government, but of citizens across the world. And I think that's been really, really powerful. So continuing to do that in a fashion that is measured, considered, and cautious, I think is really, really powerful. And in so doing, we're all learning about UNCLOS, about the 2016 Arbitral Award, which quite frankly, henceforth, had you not been a Philippines specialist or an UNCLOS specialist, you might not have heard about the 2016 Arbitral Award. And I think more and more people do know about that, which is really important. I would also surmise that it's important to work with a variety of partners on this, which has been the Philippines' approach to diversify partnerships, to support not just bilateral engagements with the big partners, but more partners, because everyone brings to different strengths to bear, different relationships to bear, and different perspective. I'd say it's also very important to continue to work with ASEAN partners and friends, because ultimately these are the Philippines' neighbors, and it is important that ASEAN continues to also take a strong position on issues of international law in the West Philippine Sea and more broadly the South China Sea.
You're right. You're actually one of the most vocal. Every time there's been a run-in in the South China Sea or West Philippine Sea, on X, on formerly Twitter, we would see you post about it, calling for a rules-based international order, referring to the arbitral ruling, and then I've seen you speak as well at public forums about the importance of a free and open Indo-Pacific. Does that then affect your own relationship with China?
Well, it does. I mean, every time we are seen to condemn China, as I have done in some of my tweets in the past, that affects the relationship. But we're very careful that we also engage with China on a bunch of other issues where we have a lot in common, and that might be everything from climate change and biodiversity and pandemic preparedness. But we have to be able to also speak out when there are issues that we think are not compatible with international law or that we feel strongly about. And so that is what we do. I think that is our role as a responsible international player. You mentioned the rules-based international system. That is really at the heart of our vision for the modern world. Without the rules-based international system, which I see a little bit as the scaffolding of the world, then everything crumbles and falls apart. So we believe that we are responsible for making sure that it's adhered to, and we will speak out when that's not the case.
We saw His Majesty Ship Spey come here last February for a military exercise. What else can we expect?
Well, you can expect HM Spey to come back. She's a ship that is always in this region, so is persistent presence. And she and her sister ship will be coming back to the Philippines for more exercises in the years to come, and more engagement and training, and possibly new things that we haven't seen yet between the UK and the Philippines too in the months to come.
Is this an exchange between navies?
Yes.
Specifically navies?
Yes, exactly. Spey is a Royal Navy ship.
Okay, what can we cooperate on in terms of maritime domain?
Well, so maritime domain is more about, I'd say, hydrographic. So right now, I think just this week in the Philippines, we have our UK Hydrographic Office that's here, that's helping to support some of the mapping of the sea, so that it's more useful for the Filipino Navy to be able to know exactly what the lay of the land is, so to speak. So that's on the maritime domain awareness. But on the capability point, it's much more about interoperability. Can never pronounce that word.
Neither can we.
Sorry?
Neither can we.
It's a challenging one. And about potentially joint sales and continuing to make the relationship grow from strength to strength.
So lots to look forward to as far as maritime cooperation is concerned.
Exactly. And this year we were once again observers to exercise Balita.
Right.
One day, hopefully, we will be participants.
I was going to ask, would the UK actively participate then?
Let's see. I think the participation of the French this year paved the way for more participants that don't yet have a VFA with the Philippines, and hopefully we will also be moving in the direction of a VFA at one point as well.
Let's shift over to the economic side of things. I looked up the latest economic data, trade between the two countries, and I believe it's to the tune of 2.8 billion pounds total trade that covers both imports and exports
That's right.
between the UK and the Philippines. That's as of last quarter
Yep.
of last year. I mean, it sounds like there we have it. It's an increase of 8.1% on year. But what that also tells us is the Philippines is the UK's 59th largest trading partner, so pretty far down the
Yep.
list. Why is that, and what can we do to bring that up?
So why is that? I mean, it's in part historical relations, right? So the UK was less well known to the Philippines as many other countries, and vice versa. We know other countries in the region much better, Commonwealth countries, for
Yes.
example, Malaysia, Singapore, or even countries that weren't Commonwealth, like Thailand for tourism reasons, etc. So the relationship with the Philippines is growing fast. I think 8% increase a year is not negligible, but it's not starting from the highest level. And so our job is to make it continue to grow. And this is where I think it's important to talk about the potential, but also all that we are doing across both governments to increase that trade. So I'll give you a few examples, if I may. We used to be members of the European Union, and in leaving the European Union, we took what was the trading scheme that the EU had with the Philippines, GSP Plus, and we held a wide consultation to develop our own trading scheme, which is now called the DCTS, Developing Countries Trading Scheme. And it builds on GSP Plus, but what it does is it further adds product lines or simplifies rules of origin, etc., to enable more exports from the Philippines to the UK. So there'll be many more products that get to the UK duty-free. So that's going to be one boost of exports. We're also developing what we hope will be quite a transformational agreement between the two governments, which will be enabling access to £4 billion of export finance that we as the UK have allocated just for the Philippines. So that £4 billion is sitting to support British exporters in exporting to the Philippines. So there's huge opportunity to tap into that when we get that G2G
What
agreement.
areas would that cover?
It would cover every area as long as the government is supportive of that.
Is this the development financing you're looking at?
So development finance is something else, and I'll come to that in a minute. Well, I can refer to that now. We have a new initiative that was launched here in the Philippines by then Secretary Jokno just last year when our Minister for Asia came, which we called British Investment Partnerships. That is basically about getting development finance into the Philippines, and in particular in green infrastructure in the Philippines. And we have a new development finance institute called British Investment International that is now working on the Philippines, which wasn't the case before. That's already done an investment in renewable energy, and I was talking to them today. They are looking at 3 other big renewable energy projects in their pipeline. So lots of exciting initiatives. And finally, for the first time, we're going to have a joint economic and trade committee chaired by our respective ministers of trade in the UK and the Philippines that identifies sectors where we want to further turbocharge our trade, and really then thinks about, okay, what can we unlock in terms of trade barriers or in terms of boosting a particular area of engagement. So it'll focus on renewable energy, infrastructure, agriculture, tech, as some of the key sectors that we're really going to invest in.
Just very curious to find out, what's the number one export of the Philippines to the UK, and what is the number one import of the Philippines from the UK?
So lots of agricultural exports from the Philippines, as well as electronics from the Philippines. And then, interestingly enough, the electronics goes both ways.
Oh, okay.
So we also have lots of electronics from the Philippines, from the UK to here. But defense is also increasing from the UK to the Philippines. And then there's a lot more happening so quickly in the tech space as well.
It sounds like it. And I was going to ask you about it's London Tech Week, and that's always a big project of the embassies. Talk us through it. What's happening this year?
So London Tech Week, we like to describe as a tech festival. So it's happening the first week of June. It brings together some of the world's best innovators, visionaries, in the space of tech, with big tech companies, with financiers, with government people, And it's just an extraordinary exchange of ideas and a bit of matchmaking between venture capitalists and tech innovators, matchmaking between the big tech companies that are looking for new solutions. So that's what it's all about. And we're really excited to host that because as the UK, we are a $1 trillion tech economy. So there's only 2 other countries in the world that have that. That's the US and China. And so tech is really at the heart of what the UK, the economy is about now. And we think it can be part of the conversations that we have in the Philippines across everything that we do, whether it's work that we do on cyber or on climate or on trade and health. It's really such an important cross-cutting theme. So for London Tech Week, you'll have quite a few Filipino companies coming to the UK.
You're bringing a delegation to
That's
London
right,
Tech Week. Okay.
exactly. Some of them will be speaking at different events. Some, like Kickstart Venture or Venture Capital Fund from the Philippines, will be introducing them to lots of tech companies to see if they want to invest in them. And some others are big companies like Globe, going there to see, okay, are there new technologies that would be useful for our business that we can buy into and bring back home? So hopefully a fun
Is this
week.
open to everyone?
Well, it's not open
By
to
invite.
everyone.
By
By
invite.
invite, yes,
All right.
exactly. So get in
When
touch
is that-
if you're
when
interested.
is that happening?
The 4th of June from memory.
I'd like also to talk about, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but Chevening? Chevening.
Sure.
Scholarships.
That's
What's
right.
going on in the education space?
So, well, Chevening is our flagship scholarship program, and it offers fully funded master's programs for students in the subject of their choice in the university
It's always
of
been
their
popular.
choice. And it is very popular because it's a generous scholarship. So it provides not just tuition, but stipend. And as I said, it's entirely flexible. So you are not constrained in terms of the subject or the university you apply for, and we just want the most talented student to go. We love it because we have some like 35 Filipino students a year that go to the UK. They generally fall in love with the UK. There might be a few things that they are surprised about, but generally they come back and they're great champions for the UK. And for us, it strengthens those bridges. And there's so many young people, or not so young, that come back and strengthen links on the creative industries or on social policy or anything from.
It takes a year though to apply for that, right? When's the application period?
So the application period, gosh, I should know that by heart, but I don't, so I'm a bit embarrassed.
Gretchen's looking into it. Don't worry, she'll be on your
I'll come back
website
to
right
you.
after
I might find romance. Just kidding.
You're welcome.
We will have to leave that there for now. A bit of a cliffhanger, but it is what it is. Thank you so much for your time tonight, UK
Thank you for
Ambassador
having
to
me.
the Philippines, Laure Beaufils.
Thank you.
A lot to look forward to.
Indeed.